The roar of engines usually filled the dusty streets of Harlan Creek like thunder that never quite left the sky. But on that late summer afternoon, every sound in Rusty's garage died the moment a tiny girl stepped through the open bay door. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old, wearing a faded pink dress printed with tiny roses that had long ago lost their color. One small hand clutched a threadbare teddy bear whose left ear was hanging by a single thread. The other hand, her right, was swollen and bruised. Deep purple fingerprints circling her thin wrist like cruel bracelets. Her messy braids stuck to her tear-streaked cheeks, and her bare feet were filthy from running on hot asphalt. But it was her legs that made every man in the garage freeze. They trembled violently, knees swollen and scraped raw, refusing to come together no matter how hard she tried. She limped forward a few steps, looked up at the circle of leather-clad bikers, and whispered in a voice so small it somehow filled the entire space. I can't close my legs." The words hung in the air like smoke. Wrenches stopped mid. A half-finished beer bottle paused halfway to her mouth. Even the old radio playing classic rock seemed to lower its volume out of respect. 20 rough men, tattooed, bearded, scarred by life and by choices, stood completely still, staring at this broken little angel who had wandered into their den. If you believe that real kindness often hides behind the toughest exteriors, hit that subscribe button right now to Road Motorcycle Diaries and join thousands of us who share stories that prove humanity is still worth believing in. Her name was Emma Riley, though no one knew it yet. The bikers only saw the pain written across her body, the swollen knee that looked twisted at an unnatural angle, the way she kept trying to press her thighs together and wincing each time, the fingerprints on her wrist and upper arm that told a story darker than any of them wanted to hear. Closest to her was Jake Hawk Morrison, president of the Iron Saints Motorcycle Club, 48 years old, silver threading through his dark beard, arms covered in ink that told stories of prison, loss, and redemption. Most people in Harlan Creek crossed the street when they saw him coming. Children were taught to look away. But when Emma's terrified brown eyes met his, something inside Hawk cracked wide open. A part of him he thought had died years ago when he lost his own little sister to a monster he couldn't stop. He lowered himself slowly to one knee, careful not to crowd her, his massive frame folding until he was eye level with the trembling child. The other bikers, Big Mike, Tommy, Red, and the rest formed a loose half-circle behind him, silent for once. "Hey, sweetheart," Hawk said, his deep voice softer than anyone in that garage had ever heard it. "My name's Jake. You're safe here. Nobody's gonna hurt you in this place." Emma's lower lip quivered. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks, cutting clean tracks through the dirt. She tried again to close her legs, biting back a sob when the swollen knee refused. Her bruised little hand tightened around the teddy bear until its remaining ear bent backward. "It hurts," she whispered. "Everywhere hurts." Hawk's eyes flicked to the bruises on her wrist, then to the way she favored her right leg completely. He'd seen bar fights, knife wounds, road rash that took skin clean off, but nothing had ever turned his stomach like this. He reached out slowly, palm up, giving her every chance to pull away. "Can I look at your hand first, just to see how bad it is?" Emma hesitated, then placed her tiny, swollen hand in his enormous one. The contrast was heartbreaking. His calloused fingers inked with skulls and eagles, gently cradling purple fingerprints that were clearly made by an adult grip. Hawk's jaw clenched so hard the muscle jumped, but he kept his touch featherlight. "These marks," he said quietly. "Did somebody grab you too hard?" She nodded, barely perceptible. "And your knee?" Another nod, followed by a hiccuping sob. Hawk glanced back at Big Mike, who stood with fists balled so tight his knuckles were white. The big man's eyes were glassy. Every biker in the room felt the same quiet fury building, the kind that doesn't shout, it just waits. Emma took a shaky breath. "My mummy's new husband. Darren! He got real mad last night. I spilled juice on the floor by accident. A guide and he grabbed my arm real hard." She lifted her bruised wrist slightly. "Then he pushed me. I fell funny, and my knee twisted. It made a loud pop. He said if I cried, he'd give me something to cry about. So I tried to be quiet, but it hurt so bad I couldn't walk right. He locked me in my room and went to drink more beer. When he passed out on the couch, I climbed out the window and ran. Her voice cracked on the last word. She looked down at her legs again, shame flooding her small face. I keep trying to close them like normal, but they won't. I'm sorry I came here. I saw the motorcycles from the road and thought maybe tough people wouldn't be scared of him. Hawk felt something hot and fierce rise in his chest, not just anger, but a fierce protectiveness he hadn't felt since he was a boy himself. He thought of his sister, gone too young because no one had stood up for her. He thought of all the years he'd spent convincing himself he was no hero. And here was this tiny girl, trusting the scariest-looking men in town because she had nowhere else to go. "You did the bravest thing I've ever seen, coming here," he told her. "And you're not going anywhere until we make this right." The other bikers murmured agreement. Red fetched a clean shop towel and a bottle of water. Tommy found a first aid kit. Big Mike disappeared into the office and came back with a clean Harley-Davidson t-shirt to wrap around her shoulders like a blanket. Hawk carefully examined her knee without moving it too much. The swelling was severe, skin hot to the touch. He suspected a serious sprain or worse. The bruises on her thighs high up, where no playground fall would leave them, made his blood run cold. "We're gonna get you to a doctor, little one," he said. "But first, do you want us to take you home, or do you want us to handle Darren?" Emma's eyes widened in pure terror at the mention of home. She shook her head frantically, fresh tears spilling. "Please don't make me go back. He'll be awake now. He'll be madder." Hawk looked up at the circle of men behind him. No words were needed. They'd all heard enough. He stood slowly, lifting Emma as gently as if she were made of glass, settling her on his hip so her injured leg could hang free. She weighed almost nothing. The teddy bear dangled from her good hand. "All right, darlin'," he said, voice steady with purpose. "We're going for a ride." The bikers moved as one. Engines roared to life, not the wild, reckless thunder they usually made, but a low, determined growl that shook the windows of Rusty's garage. Hawk carried Emma to his bike, settling her carefully in the sidecar he rarely used, padding it with extra jackets so nothing pressed against her swollen knee or bruised hand. 20 motorcycles formed up behind him in perfect formation, headlights cutting through the fading daylight like an army of guardian angels dressed in black leather. They rolled out of the garage toward the edge of town where Emma lived, and whatever waited there. The convoy of 20 motorcycles rolled through Harlan Creek like a moving wall of thunder, turning every head on the quiet streets and sending dogs barking behind picket fences. Windows cracked open as neighbors peered out, wondering what trouble the Iron Saints were riding into this time. But when they saw the tiny girl in the sidecar, her bruised hand clutching a teddy bear, her swollen legs carefully padded, whispers spread faster than the exhaust fumes. Emma clung to the edge of the sidecar with her good hand, wide eyes flicking between Hawk's broad back and the road ahead. The wind whipped her messy braids, but for the first time in days, fear wasn't the only thing she felt. There was something steady in the rumble beneath her, something protective in the formation of bikes surrounding her like a living shield. Hawk led them straight to the rundown trailer on the edge of town, its yard overgrown with weeds and littered with empty beer cans that glinted in the setting sun. The screen door hung crooked on its hinges. Even from the road, they could hear shouting inside Darren's slurred voice barking at the TV. Hawk killed his engine first. The others followed in perfect sync, leaving a sudden, heavy silence that felt louder than the roar. He lifted Emma out of the sidecar with the same gentleness as before, settling her on his hip again so her injured leg wouldn't touch the ground. Her small bruised hand looped around his neck, fingers trembling against his leather vest. "You stay right here with me, okay?" he murmured. "Nothing bad happens from this moment on." She nodded against his shoulder. Teddy bears squished between them. The bikers fanned out, naturally some staying by their bikes, others forming a loose line behind Hawk as he walked up the cracked concrete path. Big Mike and Red flanked him closest, faces carved from stone. The screen door creaked open before they reached it, and Darren stumbled out, a half-empty beer bottle dangling from his fingers. He was a big man, gone soft around the middle, shirt-stained, eyes bloodshot and mean. "What the hell is this?" he snarled, squinting at the wall of leather and chrome. "Private property! Get off!" My Hizards died when he spotted Emma in Hawk's arms. For a split second, confusion flashed across his face, then recognition and something darker. Guilt mixed with defiance. "That's my kid," he said, voice rising. "Give her here. She's in trouble for running off." Hawk didn't move. His gray eyes locked on Darren with an intensity that made the air feel colder. "She's not going anywhere with you," he said, low and even. "Not now. Not ever." Darren took a swaggering step forward, puffing up. "You don't know who you're messing with, old man. I'll call the cops on you for kidnapping." Big Mike let out a humorless laugh. "Go ahead, call him." "We'll wait." The other bikers shifted, boots crunching on gravel. No one raised a fist. No one needed to. 20 men standing united, engines still warm behind them, was threat enough. Darren's bravado flickered. He glanced at Emma's swollen knee visible below the padding, at the purple fingerprints on her tiny wrist, and something like panic crept into his eyes. "She fell," he muttered. "Clumsy kid. Always falling." Emma buried her face in Hawk's neck, her good hand tightening. A small whimper escaped her. Hawk's voice dropped even lower, dangerous in its calm. "She told us what really happened. How you grabbed her arm so hard it bruised. How you shoved her and her knee popped. How you locked her in her room while you drank yourself stupid." He took one slow step forward. "Men who hurt little girls don't get second chances with us." Darren's face drained of color. The beer bottle slipped from his fingers and shattered on the porch steps. "It wasn't. I didn't mean." From inside the trailer, a woman's voice called weakly Emma's mother, Sarah. "Darren, what's going on?" She appeared in the doorway behind him, teen and pale eyes red from crying or exhaustion, or both. When she saw Emma, she gasped and pushed past Darren, reaching out. "Baby! Oh God! Your leg." Emma lifted her head, tears fresh on her cheeks. "Mommy!" Sarah's hands hovered, afraid to touch. Her gaze darted to the bruises, to the way Emma leaned away from Darren's side of the porch. Realization crashed over her like a wave. "What did you do?" she whispered to her husband, voice breaking. Darren started blustering again, but Hawk cut him off. "Ma'am," he said to Sarah, gentle but firm, "your daughter needs a hospital, and she needs to be safe. We're taking her to get checked out. You can come with us, or you can stay here with him. But she's not staying in this house tonight." Sarah looked at Darren, then at the bikers, then at Emma's terrified face. Something inside her finally snapped awake. "I'm coming with my daughter," she said, voice trembling but resolute. She stepped off the porch, past Darren without looking at him. Darren lunged as if to grab her arm, but Red moved faster, simply stepping between them. A silent wall. Darren backed down instantly. By now, neighbors had gathered at safe distances. Phones out. Someone had already called the police. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, growing louder. Hawk handed Emma carefully to Sarah, who cradled her daughter close, sobbing apologies into her hair. "I'm so sorry, baby. I should have seen. I should have stopped it." Emma's small bruised hand reached up to touch her mom's cheek. "It's okay, Mommy. They helped me." The police arrived minutes later, 2 cruisers pulling up with lights flashing. The officers knew the Iron Saints by reputation and approached cautiously, hands near holsters. But when they saw Emma's injuries and heard Sarah's shaking testimony, backed by half a dozen neighbors who'd heard the yelling the night before, the tension shifted. Darren tried to argue, tried to lie, but the evidence was written on Emma's body in purple and blue. The officers cuffed him right there on the porch as he shouted empty threats that no one believed anymore. Emma watched from her mother's arms, eyes wide but no longer filled with pure terror. Something stronger flickered there now. Safety. Hawk stayed close while the paramedics checked Emma's knee and hand. Possible ligament damage in the knee, severe bruising on the wrist and thighs. They recommended x-rays and a full exam at the hospital. Sarah rode in the ambulance with her daughter. Hawk and 3 bikers followed on their bikes, like an honor guard. At the hospital, while Emma got treated ice packs, a temporary brace, pain relief, that finally let her relax. Sarah sat in the waiting room with Hawk. She kept thanking him through tears. "I thought they were just scary bikers," she admitted quietly. "Everyone in town says to stay away. But you saved my little girl." Hawk shrugged, uncomfortable with gratitude. "We're not saints, ma'am. Far from it. But kids deserve better than what she got." Sarah nodded, wiping her eyes. "I'm leaving him. For good this time. Primera, sui ere." Big Mike and the others waited outside, smoking quietly, keeping watch until Darren was booked and child services was called. By midnight, Emma was discharged with crutches and instructions, and Sarah accepted the club's offer to stay at a safe motel. They knew one with good locks and no questions asked. The bikers escorted them there, carried in groceries from an all-night store, even fixed the motel door that didn't latch properly. Emma, exhausted but finally pain-free enough to doze, clutched a teddy bear and whispered to Hawk before falling asleep, "Thank you for being my heroes." Hawk's throat tightened. He brushed a braid from her forehead with surprising tenderness. "Sleep tight, little one. We'll be back tomorrow." As the convoy rode away into the quiet night, the town lights dimming behind them, Harlan Creek felt different, cleaner. Word was already spreading about what the Iron Saints had done, not with violence, but with unbreakable solidarity. But the story wasn't over yet. Healing takes time, and some wounds run deeper than skin. If this story of ordinary men choosing to protect the innocent has moved you, hit that like button, subscribe to Road Motorcycle Diaries, and turn on notifications. We share real stories of courage and kindness every week. You don't want to miss what happens next. Months later, on a crisp autumn morning, when the leaves in Harlan Creek turned gold and red like fire on the hills, the roar of engines once again filled Rusty's garage. But this time, it was mixed with laughter, the kind that comes from deep healing. Little Emma Riley, now 8 years old, stood in the center of that same garage where everything had begun. Her pink dress was new this time, bright and clean, with tiny roses blooming fresh on the fabric. Her braids were neat, tied with ribbons her mother had carefully chosen. The crutches were long gone. Her knee had healed with time, physical therapy, and the stubborn determination of a child who refused to let pain win. But the real miracle was in her smile, wide, unafraid, lighting up the room brighter than the sunlight streaming through the open bay doors. And in her small right hand, no longer bruised or swollen, she held Hawk's massive, tattooed one, fingers interlaced, like they belonged together. The bikers gathered around them the way they had that fateful day. But everything was different now. Big Mike hoisted a banner that read, "Welcome home." Emma passed out sodas and burgers from the grill outside. Tommy tuned up a kid-sized bicycle they'd all chipped in to buy her. The garage smelled of grilled meat, moto oil, and hope. Emma tugged on Hawk's hand, looking up at him with those same brown eyes that had once been filled with terror. "Uncle Hawk," she said, because that's what she called him now. "We thought, hesitation? Can we go for a ride later?" In the Hawk's silver-bearded face broke into a grin that softened every hard line life had carved there. "Anything for you, kiddo? Just say the word." It hadn't happened overnight. In the weeks after that night, Hawk had shown up at the women's shelter where Sarah and Emma were staying, first with groceries, then with storybooks, then with nothing but his quiet presence. He'd sit with Emma while she did her exercises, telling her stories about the open road, about egos soaring free, about how the toughest storms make the strongest trees. He never pushed, never demanded thanks. He just showed up day after day, proving that real men protect, not hurt. Sarah had filed for divorce, gotten a restraining order, and started taking classes at the community college, determined to build a better life for her daughter. The town helped fundraisers organized by people who'd once whispered about the Iron Saints now proudly wore T-shirts with the club's logo, all proceeds going to local shelters. Neighbors who'd crossed the street to avoid the bikers now waved when they rode by. Emma's bruises faded first, the purple fingerprints on her wrist turning yellow, then vanishing like bad dreams. But the deeper wounds took longer. Nightmares woke her sometimes, making her cry out for her mommy. On those nights, Sarah would call Hawk, and he'd ride over in minutes, sitting on the edge of Emma's bed until she fell back asleep, his deep voice humming old rock ballads turned into lullabies. One evening, about 2 months after the rescue, Emma had crawled into Hawk's lap while he fixed a toy truck for her. She traced the tattoos on his arm with her healed little finger, the skulls, the eagles, the faded name of his lost sister. "Does this one hurt?" she asked innocently. Hawk shook his head. "Not anymore. Tattoos are just stories on your skin." She thought about that, then pressed her small palm flat against his. "I have a story too," she said quietly. "But it doesn't hurt anymore either, because you made the bad part go away." Hawk's eyes glistened. He cleared his throat, unable to speak for a moment. In that simple touch, her trusting hand in his, he found the redemption he'd spent decades believing he didn't deserve. The town changed too. Children no longer ran from the bikers. They ran toward them, asking for rides on the shoulders of giants. The Iron Saints started a program, motorcycle safety classes for kids, toy runs at Christmas, escorts for families, leaving abusive situations. What began with one little girl's courage spread like wildfire, proving that kindness is contagious. And Emma, she grew stronger every day. She started school again, made friends who never knew the old fear in her eyes. She learned to ride that bicycle without training wheels, Hawk running alongside, cheering louder than any engine. She even helped her mom plant roses in their new little yard, real ones, pink and perfect, just like her dress. On the 1-year anniversary of that life-changing day, the whole town gathered at Rusty's garage for a celebration. There were speeches, tears, and laughter. Sarah thanked the bikers publicly, voice steady and proud. The mayor, once wary of the club-handed Hawk, a key to the city, calling him and his brothers Harlan Creek's true guardians. But the most powerful moment came when Emma stepped up to the microphone they'd set up just for her. She was nervous at first, clutching her teddy bear, now repaired, both ears sewn back on strong. Then she looked at Hawk in the front row, and her voice rang out clear and brave. "I was really scared that day," she said to the crowd. "My hand hurt, my leg hurt, everything hurt. But I ran to the garage because I thought the tough guys with motorcycles might help me. And they didn't scare me. They saved me." She paused, smiling through happy tears. "They taught me that real heroes don't always look like the ones in storybooks. Sometimes they have beards and tattoos and ride loud bikes. But they have the biggest hearts." The garage erupted in cheers. Hawk stood, pulling Emma into a hug that lifted her off the ground, her laughter mixing with the roar of engines as the bikers revved in celebration. In the end, Harlan Creek never forgot the day a tiny girl limped into a biker garage, whispered words that stopped 100 engines, and reached out with a bruised little hand that changed everything. They remembered how strangers became family, how fear turned into fierce love, how one act of courage from a child and the kindness of men judged by their leather-restored faith in the goodness that still lives in people. They remembered that no matter how rough someone looks on the outside, the heart inside can be tender enough to heal a broken world. And years later, when people asked Emma what she wanted to be when she grew up, she'd squeeze Hawk's hand and say, "Someone who helps kids who are scared, just like my Uncle Hawk did for me." If this story touched your soul the way true kindness always does, then hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe to Road Motorcycle Diaries for more real stories that prove humanity's heart is still beating strong, and turn on notifications so you never miss one. In the comments below, tell us, what would you have done if little Emma had come running to you, bruised hand reaching out, trusting you to be her hero? We read every single comment. Thank you for being part of this journey. Never forget, sometimes the smallest hand can heal the biggest hurts.